Okay, this is Thomas Freed on the Liberty Works Radio Network. That's right, we're back. We're back. This is the Truth Attack Hour. So, shall we get into it? We are the Liberty Works Radio Network, and we do need the support of the members of the listening audience to keep the network operating and the broadcasts coming. So, if you enjoy the shows, the speakers, the topics, the information, and the guests on the other shows, we sure would appreciate it if you'd find your way over to the LibertyWorksRadioNetwork.com website. That's just all one long string, Liberty Works Radio Network. And that's also where you can listen online. But if you're not already there, we sure would appreciate it if you could find your way over to the LibertyWorksRadioNetwork.com website and get signed up as a subscribing member. Even if it's as little as $10, $20 a month, we need every membership to keep the network operating. And if you want to get fully informed on the maladministration of the federal income tax by the IRS, the DOJ, and the federal judges for the last 65 years, because we don't have a tax system in America. It's a system of involuntary servitude by voluntary allowance. It's a system of debt service. All the money is routed to the Federal Reserve Bank. Now the money goes in the Treasury. People, wake up. It's not a tax system. If you want to get fully informed on what's really going on, you got to find your way over to tax-freedom.com right here, taxfreedom.com. And if you know anyone who needs help answering a piece of IRS letters, a piece of IRS correspondence, because the letters are back out in the mail, the IRS is in business again, sending out correspondence as fast as they can after a 2.5-year hiatus from COVID. But if you know anyone who's getting correspondence and needs help answering them with law, send them to irszoom.com. That's right here underneath, irszoom.com. We help you answer the IRS letters with law for $30, $40, or $50 each per letter with no retainer needed. So, taxfreedom.com to get educated and pick yourself up a copy of the $4 The Simple Truth About Income Tax. It's a 75-page PDF download that shows you what the law really did in 1913, the Tariff Act, which taxed foreign persons, not citizens. And it explains the problem with subject matter jurisdiction, where there is no enabling enforcement clause in the 16th Amendment, so Congress isn't authorized to write any law under authority of the 16th Amendment. And that becomes a problem in court because the IRS claims it's the 16th Amendment is why you owe the tax. But Congress is never authorized to write any new law under that amendment. The whole thing is a fraud. And that's all exposed in The Simple Truth About Income Tax, just a $4 PDF. And it includes a 20-page article at the end that exposes the truth, absolutely for sure, through the congressional legislation enacted in 2018 by Donald Trump when they reenacted the income tax law. And they had to put a constitutional authority statement on the congressional record before they could bring that bill to the floor to be debated as potential legislature. And in that constitutional authority statement, they wrote Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1. They didn't write the 16th Amendment. The courts have been lying to you for 65 years and using this as a mechanism to enforce their socialist beliefs that are based in the belief that government should control everything. And that's what's laid out in the 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto, which is what this government has been enforcing against you. Specifically, the second plank of the Communist Manifesto, which says a heavy, progressive, or graduated income tax. That's where you find graduated taxation, class legislation, class warfare, not uniform law, not uniform taxation of the American people, but graduated. That's not in the Constitution. The Constitution requires uniformity of taxation. Graduated taxation is the system of class warfare that divides the people, treats them differently, each class differently, with different laws. One set of laws for the wealthy, one set of laws for the poor, one set of laws for the Republicans, no laws at all for the Democrats. It's class warfare. It's unconstitutional. Graduated taxation can't be enforced against the American citizens. It's an unconstitutional system. And as I said, it's not taxation. None of the money goes to the Treasury. It all flows to the Federal Reserve Bank. And the consequences of that are that whenever there's an emergency, a hurricane in New Orleans, an earthquake in California, Congress rushes over to the Treasury to get $1 billion to draw on against the Treasury revenues, the revenues that have been getting collected for the last 7, 8, 9 months of the year, if the hurricane or earthquake hits in September, for instance. And when they get to the Treasury to draw the $1 billion to give to FEMA to go help the disaster-stricken area of the country, what do they find? That's right, nothing. Nothing. No Treasury revenues. None of the collected taxes have actually been deposited in the Treasury. There's no money there. They can't draw on the revenues because they aren't there. It wasn't tax. It was involuntary debt service by voluntary allowance based on population's lack of understanding about how to fill out a W-4 properly when you first start work. So the money is all routed to the Federal Reserve Bank. It doesn't go to the Treasury. And when Congress goes to try and draw the $1 billion for emergency relief for FEMA to use to help the disaster-stricken part of the country, there's no money in the no money in the Treasury. So what does the Congress have to do? That's right. They borrow another $1 trillion from the Federal Reserve Bank. And that's why it doesn't matter who you put in office. The debt keeps going up. The debt burden keeps getting bigger. And pretty soon it's going to consume your entire budget. It's already reached the point where it's the biggest budget item now, surpassing defense spending just earlier this year. It's like $1.3 trillion in deficit interest debt that you owe every year now. It's bigger than the defense budget. So they're ripping the country apart. As goes the currency, so goes the fate of the nation. Wake up, America. They're running it out. They're destroying the currency. God knows where they think they're going to go with it. God knows where they think they're going to go with it, but they are running it out and printing it into oblivion, and all of America is experiencing the negative consequences of allowing this Democrat administration to run so afoul of the law and just print, give it away, give it away, give it away, change the budget priorities. Where did all this money come from? To fund illegal aliens, housing, medical, credit cards, phones, benefits, trouble. Where'd all this come from? This isn't in the federal budget. This is all stolen money. Joseph Biden diverting funds that should be spent on the American people to import foreign voters, which they are registering to vote as fast as they can, both in the Democrat states and in as many of the swing states as they can push them into. Why? Well, the swing states to try and prevent the loss of the next election for president, and in the Democrat states to prevent the loss of electoral votes in the electoral college system in each election, and to prevent the loss of congressional seats and thus proportionate budget amounts based on the last census, which is where we get the number of representatives and how they will be apportioned amongst the states. How many in California, how many in New York, how many in Florida, how many in Texas. That's all based on the census. And of course, the vote is based on registered voters. And they're registering the illegal aliens to vote. They're giving representation to foreigners over citizens. They're giving budget priority to foreigners over citizens. And they're running out the currency to do it. And of course, we're building into two distinct and separate realities for America. One on Wall Street, where all the printed money has ended up being parked on the sidelines looking for a buy-in opportunity. And the other reality is on Main Street, where they're running out of money. They can't get loans. The banks aren't lending because of the inverted yield curve. Jobs are drying up. Price inflation is outrunning wage increases. And quality of life is decreasing as the costs of existence go through the roof and people have to make choices about how to eat or whether to pay the electric bill. So things are going badly under this economy for Main Street. Joe Biden doesn't see that. He doesn't see that. The only thing he sees is Wall Street with the market and the money and the stock prices and supposedly the economy going just fine. But all the statistics are baked. All the statistics are baked. What you should be looking at is the fact that you've got like a 62% employment participation rate, which is as low as it's been since the 1960s, as low as it's been since like 57. The unemployment rate of 3.5 is just a straight up lie. They're not counting 80% of the people without jobs because they've been without jobs so long they're not looking anymore. So they don't get counted. So it's the employment participation rate that tells you what's really going on. And all the statistics show us that all of the real economic gains that have been made in the last 3.5 years under Biden, the lying critter, have all been made by the illegal aliens. The foreigners are the ones getting the jobs, getting wages. They're getting full-time jobs at lower wages, and Americans are being pushed down to part-time work. So the recipients of the economic boom Joe likes to try and brag about have all been foreign. On Main Street, it's non-existent. Main Street is falling into a recession, which, if things don't change quick, going to be a depression. Joe doesn't care. He doesn't see that. He's an idiot. Everything this guy does is criminal. Everything this guy does is criminal. The border policy is criminal. He's on TV saying, oh, he's not interested in playing politics with immigration. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? He's been doing nothing but playing politics with immigration since day one, when he canceled all of Trump's executive orders and policies that remain in Mexico, the closed border, the ending the catch and release, forcing you to claim asylum by going to the embassy in the first country you come to, not at our border in the middle of the desert and the barbed wire. Now, he canceled everything and he's ushered in over 10 million illegal aliens who he's spent the money on to try and put an electorate in place that will make it permanently Democrat for the rest of all time by moving 10 million people, foreigners, who will be indebted to Joe for letting them in and giving them money and jobs and phones and housing and medical care. And oh my God, it's treason. It's treason. He's selling out the country for raw political power. It's selling out the country. And look at what his policies are doing. They're literally now murdering Americans. And I'm not just talking about the 100,000 fentanyl deaths from the ridiculous refusal of the Biden administration to close the drug smuggling from the border and the ports of entries and in the cities where it's being distributed by the gangs. They're also actually murdering women now, right? We've got a second woman who's been murdered by an illegal alien who crossed the border illegally, who got caught several times and was thrown out. They kept putting them back and letting them come in. And now you've got 2 dead women at least, Rachel Morin and Larkin Riley, if you recall. I'm sure you do. So Joe Biden's policies are literally killing Americans. Literally killing Americans, and he doesn't care. And Merrick Garland's Department of Justice isn't prosecuting the gangs, the cartels, or the murderers. They're prosecuting Donald Trump on made-up charges for fictional accusations that don't exist because they're all completely fraudulent. Every single one of the cases against Trump is fraudulent. Georgia's about a phone call. New York's about federal election law, which the state court has no jurisdiction over. The Florida classified documents case was engineered and there's presidential immunity. And the Washington, D.C. January 6th case, they edited out patriotically, peacefully and patriotically marched to the Capitol to try and accuse him of insurrection. Every single one of these cases are made up. Oh, and that rape case in New York was absolutely made up too. That was 30 years ago, and he wasn't convicted of rape. So how does he get convicted of a charge that's expired? The statute of limitations We'll be back in 5. Sorry about that. Yo, yo. Okay, this is Thomas Freed on the Liberty Works Radio Network. This is the Truth Attack Hour, and yes, that's right. We're back with more attacks. So, freedom comes from God, not government. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. God's true plan for mankind is freedom, achieved and accomplished, derived from faith in God. If you put your faith in any other entity, be it man, institution, or philosophy, your faith will be used against you. You will be betrayed and enslaved by the entity in which you misplaced your faith instead of God. Only God rewards faith with freedom. Every other entity takes advantage of your faith to enslave you to it. So wake up, America. Wake up. You are spirited creatures, not just bodies enslaved by the physical reality you find yourself confronted with at the moment. It's been like this forever. Wake up and realize your own spiritual creativity and potential. So, Joe Biden goes on murdering Americans, betraying Americans. He sold himself out to the Chinese Communist Party. You know, it was Biden and Obama that signed an agreement with the Communist Chinese that let them list their companies on the New York Stock Exchange, but didn't require them to use and abide by the same accounting rules as all the other companies listed there. So you don't really know what's going on with these Chinese companies that are being supported and carried by American investors based on what will undoubtedly turn out to be fraudulent numbers, because the accounting is being done by the communist Chinese, who are just using Americans to fund their spread of communism and socialism and the system of global socialism that they're trying to usher in, that apparently Joe Biden has bought into. And the first step is to control energy all over the planet. And that's why they're taking it away from you and making it expensive. Because when energy is cheap, the people flourish and the people rule. When energy is expensive, the government controls everything by rationing energy. And they've decided to take that step in America with the climate nonsense as their fraudulent pretense for stepping in and shutting down cheap energy. First, nuclear, which started 30 years ago, shutting it down instead of rebuilding and renewing the plants that were coming offline after a 50-year lifetime. They shut them down and took away the cheap energy. Those plants were the basis for Americans booming through the 50s and the 60s and recovering in the 70s. Shutting down cheap energy is a method for enslaving and controlling the people. It ultimately leads to rationing energy only to those who politically support the government. It becomes a corrupt system of fascism where the enormous wealth of the corporate bureaucracy merges with the enormous power of the political bureaucracy. With both bureaucracies arrayed against the people, enslavement is inevitable. It's the only possible result, especially now that the states have been stripped of their power through the denial of their original power to appoint the senators, so that the Senate would represent the states, the House would represent we the people, and the executive would represent the law and its administration, while the judicial settled legal questions about the administration of the law by the executive. Nowhere is the power to rewrite law given to the executive, even through executive orders, and that's what Joe Biden has been trying to doing for 3.5 years and getting away with it. It's how budget money is being redirected. It's how they terminate the wall. It's how they terminate the pipeline. It's how they turn off leases that Congress has authorized. That's how they find money to ship illegal aliens all over the country and give them housing and medical. And it's just every single bit of this is broken laws. Broken law, broken law. You can't name a policy that he isn't breaking the law on with his orders. This isn't administration of law. This is the administration and imposition of socialism and its failures. Failure after failure after failure. Last week I was telling you how initially, a year ago or so, I told you they built one EV recharging station for the first $2 billion they spent. And last week I told you that it had been up to $5 billion, and now they've got seven recharging stations for $5 billion. Now, there's probably more that are going to come, but you're kidding me, right? You spent $5 billion and you only got 7 stations? Where is this money going? It's obviously not going into the EV recharging stations. Oh, and here's this. You remember Joe Biden bragging about the infrastructure bill going to bring cheap internet to everyone in America? $43 billion later, they haven't delivered cheap internet to a single household in the country. Not one. Apparently, they're having problems under the DEI hiring rules finding technically capable people to do it. Turns out you can't just hire someone who's female or gay or transgender or black. Can't hire them because of that. Because you need someone who can do cable and set up switches and servers and other things that are necessary in that telecommunications world. So, you can't just hire anybody to do this stuff. You have to hire people with experience. And that means you got to use the cable companies. But if you restrict their hiring, they're going to have problems doing anything with the money except churning it, looking for people to hire. So it's just spend and waste, run it out, burn it up. And of course, that's exactly what we're seeing with the Ukrainian war, too, right? It starts a war, and then we could have prevented the war by helping the Ukrainians defend their border against the Russian troops massing on the Russian side of the border before they invaded. But he didn't want to provoke Putin because he's a coward. So when the enemy masses on your border and you don't oppose them, you're inviting them in, and that's exactly what happened. Putin felt invited in. Nobody's there to stop us. Let's go. And they took that eastern section of Russia, and Biden then gave them arms and weapons, but told them you can't attack anything in Russia. And of course, that's where all the Russian troops are staging all the military attacks in the Ukraine are being staged from in Russia, and Biden hasn't allowed them to attack. Now, just recently, he's changed that, but this is just dragging the war out, dragging it out, making it impossible for Ukraine to ever make enough progress to force Putin to the table, because if you can't attack them when they're staging in Russia, well, that just means it's all coming to the Ukraine. It's absolutely stupid. Stupid military policy, but how could we expect anything else from these idiots? Everything he's done's been stupid, especially in the military. Remember Afghanistan? Oh, let's leave Afghanistan. Donald Trump started the policy. Well, sir, we decided that you need to leave that last 5,000 people there to control Bagram. That airbase is a multi-billion-dollar airbase, and we need it to be able to stage activities in that part of the world. Oh, no, pull everybody out. So I pull everybody out. Well, wait a minute. We forgot the civilians. Oh, dear. Better send everybody back so we can do a civilian evacuation. Oh, my God. Talk about incompetence. He ended up murdering 13 Americans with his military incompetence between the White House and the Pentagon. So he's been murdering people since he took office. That's the result of stupidity in policy, as people die. Hard to believe half this country still can tolerate his presence. I don't understand how. I can't tolerate it. The man is the worst political leader we've had in history. He's even worse than the guy that let the Civil War happen in the 1850s, who Lincoln replaced. I forget his name. Sorry. Okay, so we got a debate coming up here next week. Biden and Trump get the debate. Strict rules, no open mics, one bottle of water, a pen and a notepad. It's not clear. I guess they've decided Kennedy didn't qualify, so he's not going to be on the stage. No competitors allowed. That was a Democrat rule. No competitors allowed. But it's the Republicans trying to kill democracy, right? The Democrats won't allow a third party on the stage to debate brainless, brain dead, mindless wanders around. Will probably walk off the stage or fall off of it. No, it can't have any competition on stage. Only one opponent. Only one opponent. But it's the Republicans who are trying to destroy democracy, not the Democrats. Not the Democrats, who are trying to put their political opponent in jail. They don't want anybody else on the stage, and they want the one candidate on the stage with Joe to be put in jail. Yeah, that's democracy for you, right? It's Joe who's the dictator. It's Joe who started the war. It's Joe who destroyed the economy. It's Joe who destroyed energy independence. It's Joe who is letting the fentanyl kill people all over America. It's Joe that's funding the invasion and orchestrating the invasion of 12 million illegal aliens to be moved into the country and registered to vote Democrat for the rest of all time. It's Joe committing treason. Everything Donald Trump got accused of, he'll do this, he'll do that. It's Joe Biden who did it. It's Joe Biden that did it. He's the one that fired people for not taking the vaccine, not Donald Trump. He's the one that insisted everybody take it, not Donald Trump. More people died of COVID under Biden than Trump. Oh, nobody remembers that. Anyone who lets 600,000 people die isn't fit to have office. Well, how about the 900,000 that died under Joe? Yeah, what a moron. A real piece of work. A straight up liar. So in this debate, what can we expect? I'll tell you what you can expect. You can expect to see Joe all juiced up on drugs again. Ritalin or Adderall or whatever form of meth they're using now. It's just like he was all juiced up at the State of the Union speech and able to actually stay coherent for 20 minutes or so. But that's drugged. And I'll bet that's what's coming again. Drugged Joe for the debate. Suddenly, for the first time since the State of the Union, he'll be able to complete one sentence. It won't make any sentence, it won't make any sense, but it'll be a sentence. Almost, maybe. One or two, probably. One or two. And, I have said the statistics are manipulated. NPR got a poll 49 to 49. Joe Biden is dead even with Donald Trump. Yeah, right. Sure thing. Check. Where did you take the poll? New York City, San Francisco, Chicago, Washington, D.C., Baltimore? Probably didn't call anyone in the countryside. Just made sure they're picking the answers. Oh, you're for Trump. Well, sorry, we can't count you. Hang up. Call somebody else. They're manipulating the poll results. Everybody knows that Biden is in the toilet and going down, and the Democrat Party is panicking. You got all the pundits on TV worried about how if Biden messes up just once in this debate, that'll be it. That'll be it. It'll be over for the party. It'll be over for Biden, and then they'll have to make the big candidate switch at the convention in August, which, of course, would be catastrophic because you can't get momentum to win in 2 months. They've basically put their hat on Joe Biden, and they're going to die with it on him too. And cheap fake is the disinformation. It's Karine Jean-Pierre at the White House that's spreading disinformation. Everything that they've claimed as disinformation turned out to be true. Everything about Hunter, everything about Joe, everything they claimed about Donald Trump was false. Everything they've denied about Joe and Hunter was true. The Democrats are pushing disinformation. Okay, it sounds like we're coming up on the second commercial break. This is Thomas Freed on the Liberty Works Radio Network. We'll be Okay, this is Thomas Freed on the Liberty Works Radio Network, and let's just go ahead and get right back into this. As I was saying, the Democrat Party is collapsing. The whole party is in a panic because they know Joe Biden is not capable or competent of performing. He's not capable or competent of leading America. Everyone knows he's not leading America. He's a puppet, a marionette on strings. He goes out on stage and, well, he doesn't really dance anymore when they pull the strings, does he? He just kind of stands there frozen, unable to move, like he's already in the wax museum. This is unreal. He just stands there, frozen. Everybody else on the stage is dancing to the music, and he's just standing there, stuck like an ice cube. Just mind boggling. Absolutely incompetent, absolutely unable and incapable of serving. Not even for the rest of this term, he's not capable of serving. He needs to get out. And obviously, he's too arrogant. And I keep thinking about that Star Trek episode where they come to the planet, and it turns out there's a previous starship captain there who arrived and got crashed and stranded and instituted the Nazi system of government, and then got so old and senile that the Nazi officers around him took over the administration of the government and kept him all drugged up and doped up, reading the script on TV for the people to think he was still the benevolent ruler of the country, when the whole thing had been co-opted by the Nazis, who were persecuting one group of people on the planet just like Adolf did to the Jews in World War II. This is what Joe Biden has become. An elderly, senile, broken piece of garbage that's sat in a chair and propped up with a broomstick up his ass so that his back doesn't slump over. They put a mic in front of him and words on the telescreen, and he reads everything, right down to the directions. Pause. Pause. Do I have pause? Pause. Pause what? Oh, pause. You mean... well, let's get back to it. So, I mean, it really is. It's gotten bad. And of course, you see this in everything. I already talked about the other policies. It's just as bad in the foreign policy, right? Policy with Iran, let's just let them build nuclear bombs. North Korea, let's let them shoot missiles over Japan. Russia, well, he's gone to war with Russia because they want Putin out, not because we have any geopolitical interest in the whole thing, just because they want Putin out. Israel, he's broken our relationship with Israel. He's broken our relationship with the Saudis, and they're removing the petrodollar. They're switching to God knows what. We'll have to see if it's successful or not. I've said before, I think they'll have a hard time finding something else because there's no other paper currency on the planet that isn't managed worse than the U.S. currency. And today it's on the news that Russia is announcing they may send nuclear weapons to North Korea now. So good job, Joe. You put China, North Korea, Russia, and Iran all together in one wagon opposing the United States actively and vociferously based on the high price of petroleum, which funds all of their military operations, based on your stupidity in taking America out of the worldwide production of petroleum and energy, and thus allowing the price to rise from $50 a barrel to near 100 at one point, and now it's around $78, $80. But this is what's funding all of the war. Iran is able to fund things. Russia is able to fund things. All of these places are able to fund things on expensive petroleum, and cheap petroleum was your best weapon against worldwide terrorism and rogue nations and rogue leaders like in North Korea and Russia and Iran. Your best weapon was cheap energy and cheap petroleum. That's what prevented them from doing things. And Joe Biden just threw it all in the toilet because he's an idiot. Because he's an idiot. He isn't able to link 1 + 1 and come up with 2. He's like that guy in North Korea. 1 + 1 makes a bigger 1. It makes a bigger 1. It doesn't make 2. He's an idiot. And the Democratic Party is in hysterics. They know if he makes one mistake on the debate stage next week, he's done. And most of the country knows he's senile, got onset dementia, and isn't really able to process things. He can't remember names. He doesn't remember protocols. His attention wanders. He forgets what he's talking about. He never takes questions from an open press room. Every single bit of his interaction with the reporters is 100% scripted. And anyone who doesn't go along with the script is removed from the press corps. It's just as bad as it gets. It's just as bad as it gets. And now they're left with nothing but to lie from the podium. Karine Jean-Pierre is just spinning it out as fast as they can make the yarn up. It's just crazy. Okay, so, at this point, they had to admit in court that Hunter Biden's laptop is real because the FBI used it as evidence in the gun trial. And what that means is that the 51 alleged security agents who testified that didn't appear to be real and it was Russian disinformation should all be prosecuted by Donald Trump for election interference. They all intentionally lied. They knew it was real at the time. All 51 of them should have their security clearances taken, and they should be prosecuted in court for election interference. That includes Blinken, who organized it, and all 51 of the men who signed it, knowing it was 100% false and intending to use it to help Joe Biden overcome the truth that should have kept him out of office. So they need to arrest and prosecute all 51 of those lying pieces of crap. Every single one of them. Take their clearances away, put them in court, convict them, and put them in jail as appropriate. Okay, so did you see they have built in Los Angeles a homeless shelter? Yeah, it's a $60 million luxury high-rise with spa and art room and drama. This is absolutely insane. This is absolutely insane. Do you know how much shelter you could have built for $60 million? One luxury high-rise for the homeless? Are you kidding me? Oh, are you going to put the drug addicts there or the mentally insane? And if you do, how long do you think the toilets are going to flush in that environment? This is the problem we have in America, is you don't have a homelessness problem. You have a three-part problem, which is all labeled as homeless. The three-part problem is 1/3 drug-addicted persons that are living on the street so that they can spend all their money on the drugs instead of rent and housing and food. It's a choice. It's involuntary choice in many cases. The addiction is so severe that they don't have any physical choice anymore. But that's the heart of the problem, not economic disopportunity that is typically associated with causing homelessness, but drug addiction. The second part of the problem is crazy people. You closed all your mental institutions in the 70s, and now you got the crazy people on the street. So 1/3 of the homeless is drug addicted and doesn't want help because they're living the way they want to get the drugs. 1/3 of the people are crazy, and you can't help because they don't know what help is. They don't want help. They think they're okay, ranting and raving every day at people that walk by. So 1/3 is drug addicted, 1/3 is crazy and mentally insane, and 1/3 is economic disopportunity. And those people you could help. But you can't help the other 2/3, and they're spending all the money trying to help the 2/3 that won't take help. So you have to figure out how you're going to deal with the drug addicted. They obviously need treatment, and it's going to have to be forced treatment of some sort. The mentally insane need a place to be put. You can't put them on the street. It doesn't work. It isn't working. More and more people are falling into this bucket of going insane from drug addiction. When the drug runs out, they're crazy. And the third group, homeless who actually lost their job and housing for economic reasons, that group you could help, but you need an active program that trains them for jobs that are available. You need an active program that puts them in the part of the country where they can be employed, and you need an active program that lets them stay with the family while this gets figured out and the skill gets acquired and the job gets put in place. And I think the only way to deal with this is the same way we dealt with it before in the 30s. You have to set up camps where people can go and get assistance. And I think the only way to manage that in today's society is to use military facilities. They've got the barracks, they've got the housing, they've got the people, they could police it. It's not really what you want to do with your military, but you need to come up with a solution, and that's where the housing exists. That's where the facilities exist. It's all there. Most of it's not being used. You just cordon off one section of the base on the edge and use it as a homeless shelter. And if you don't use existing resources, well, then you're going to watch the Democrat politicians spend $60 million on one building that will only house, what, 100, 200 families? $60 million? Really? You couldn't do more than that with $60 million? Who got that contract? Was that a no-bid contract to the governor's construction friend? I'd sure like to see the details on that. And how did you end up accepting a $60 million bid for one building? That's a luxury high-rise. You really felt it was necessary for the city to spend $60 million on a luxury high-rise as a homeless camp? Where's the incentive to stop being homeless? This is insanity. This is pure budgetary insanity. And we're seeing it in every single Democrat-run municipality in the country, where they're reprioritizing and stealing budget to house the homeless, the illegal aliens, and now the homeless. This isn't intelligent use of the budget. This is running it out. As goes the currency, so goes the fate of the nation. Wake up, America. You don't experience the degrading quality of life being caused by these insane energy and fiscal policies? Just print it up and run it out. Print it up and run it out. As goes the currency, so goes the fate of the nation. Learn it, earn it, burn it. Burn it into your minds. Don't forget it. Vote for fiscal sanity. Terminate the insane reality being constructed by this insane idiot in the White House. He's not really there. This is intentionally being done by the socialists around him who have co-opted the administration in order to take down America a notch or two on the planetary scale so that they can usher in their global socialism, which requires that everyone be reduced to an equal status initially, which means you got to bring the United States down substantially because it is not on an equal status with the other nations. It's got a stronger military, a stronger economy, a freer people, at least historically it has. So they need to break all of that down to usher in the global socialism, and they need to destroy the quality of life in America because we know the American people will never accept a conversation about a new form of government like global socialism until the current form is completely dysfunctional. And they've done a pretty good job of creating that situation, haven't they? The whole government is currently dysfunctional. The education department doesn't educate. The energy doesn't create energy. Transportation doesn't create transportation. Everything is being shut down. Oh, for the climate. For the climate. You idiot! Idiot! Okay, sounds like we're coming up on the end of the show. This is Thomas Freed on the Liberty Works Radio Network. We'll be back next week with more